yeah. It's Frank and Mustard. Laying down the tracks.
Yeah, throw your hands and clap. Now everyone up, let's give it a chance. It's time to rock the show and make everyone dance.
Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Now if you ever come across the little dog, his little friend, and his little paws, then you might realize something special about this dog.
He has 2 wheels but doesn't let it stop him.
Yeah, I'm on a mission to follow my dreams. Look over there, I see some ice cream. Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
Wally the walrus can't give us enough. Now it's time to introduce our friend.
Welcome to the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers and its monthly author showcase. I am your host, Peter Stockwell. Olympia author Simon Calcavecchia is visiting with us this month at the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Studios. Simon and I met over a year ago and have shared several signing venues. Simon writes intriguing children's books about a dog and his companion, a yellow canary. Welcome to BCAT and to our broadcast for Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
How did you begin your career as a writer?
Well, that is a question that will take some time to answer because it's been a long time in development. It started with the experience of being 19 years old and pursuing a different passion of playing rugby. And I played rugby in high school, became very passionate about the sport, and at the end of my high school career, I had an opportunity to live out my dream of playing rugby in Sydney, Australia. My coach previously was Australian and he had all the right connections for me, and so he offered me the chance to go over there and live and play the game that I love. And so that's how the journey began, and while I was there, I ended up getting some bad advice during the season from one of the players who was trying to help me be a better player, but it ultimately led me to getting my head in the wrong position in a scrum, which is part of the rugby game. Yeah. And when I went into the scrum, my head was more to the side than down, and I hit my opponent's shoulder. It broke my neck at the C5-6 level, which means that I'm paralyzed from the chest down. This line that I'm creating, I have no function or feeling in my body. My hands are paralyzed, and my triceps are also paralyzed, so I can't raise my arm in this position. But my biceps and shoulders are both strong.
Very good.
So when that happened, I had a whole new lifestyle, and I had to find ways to live my life with quadriplegia. And being in the world where I needed a lot of support and help, I had a challenging time finding work and finding meaning in my life and purpose. So I decided to start volunteering at a certain point in my life about 10 years ago. And I was volunteering in elementary schools as well as a preschool at the Children's Museum in Olympia. And I had spent a lot of time with these kids. And in all that time, not once did I read a book to them that had a character using a wheelchair. And I wanted to change that. And I was dreaming about making a children's book. But I didn't know how it would all come together. But I eventually knew that when the opportunity came along, I would make sure that I took full advantage of it. And I eventually met the illustrator of the book, who became one of my really good friends and still is. And he was the perfect fit for what I was trying to create in making my first children's book.
Now, your stories tell a unique tale. Explain how this unique tale happens. Where do your ideas come from?
Well, they come from my own experience of using a wheelchair. And my first book is called Stuck in the Mud. And as a wheelchair user, that happens, where I get stuck in the mud And I like to drive wildly and drive all over the place in my wheelchair and take it just about everywhere I can.
I've noticed.
Right?
Yes.
You've seen me.
Especially the one I saw with the bubbles.
Right? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to pop wheelies wherever I can. But
Not too far back. You've got wheels
no.
on the back.
Yeah, I do have wheels to protect me from falling over, so I get to make it look extra cool when I pop a wheelie. But yeah, Stuck in the Mud is based on a true story where I was out on some trails and flying around in my wheelchair, and it was a wet, rainy day in Vancouver, BC at the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens, and I was going around on all the trails, but the one I went down had really loose soil, and I ended up getting stuck in the mud, and I needed help to get out. And it seemed like a great place to start the book series.
Does. So how did you come up with the idea for a dachshund and a canary?
Good question. Well, the answer comes with the idea that I wanted my books to have the characters be animals. I feel like animals are very kid-friendly, you can have fun with them, and I didn't want a book series that was super serious. I really wanted something positive to come out of it, but I didn't want it to be taken very seriously and very in the realist way. I wanted to create something fun and enjoyable for kids and think of what they like. So I knew I wanted animals, and if I had animals, I wanted a character to represent me and how I use a wheelchair. And if I have a character using a wheelchair, well, what animal would most likely need to use a wheelchair? And I thought of a wiener dog because they have the elongated backs and they have the most back issues, which ultimately lead them to more oftenly being in a wheelchair. And if I have a character in a wheelchair and it's a wiener dog, well, I'm going to have to make a hot dog joke. So I had to work with, the artist actually helped me come up with the name for Mustard, but it ended up being the perfect combination for beginning my children's book series.
And so canary does what?
Mustard
Mustard the canary, yeah.
Mustard represents all the caregivers in my life and the people that help me be more independent. So in Stuck in the Mud, he is trying to help Frank get out of the mud, and he does everything he can, including going off and getting help, and he is there to help Frank when he needs it in any form he can.
Well, tell our audience how you use storytelling to relate your experiences to the young children that you go visit.
Yeah, well, like I was saying earlier, in that 10 years of volunteering with kids, not once did I read a book that had a character using a wheelchair to those kids, and they weren't getting the stories that I wanted to share with them. So that's when I knew I had to change that. And I feel like just by having the character represent me, Frank really does represent me. In the book Stuck in the Mud, I've had countless people tell me, I like how you don't talk about the wheelchair, because that's how it's for me. I don't see myself as disabled or using a wheel. I know I use a wheelchair, but that's not part of my mindset. I focus on the things that I can do. I get to drive a go-kart, and that's how I feel about it. I get to have fun.
You have a book about a go-kart.
I
It's not out yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's in, because you and I have talked about
It's actually a
that.
monster truck.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
And it's coming.
It will be out.
Yeah.
The next book will be about surfing.
Yeah, I heard about that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically, with your messages to all these kids, is it doesn't matter. Life goes on.
Yeah.
Be the best.
That's definitely part of the messages, and really to create more disability awareness in children's books, but to not let anything stop kids from doing what they're dreaming about.
As a middle school teacher who's retired, and having watched their handicaps just for being middle school, a lot of times they do need that encouragement on the fact that nothing should be in the way of success. And we're going to fail. We're going to have problems. We're going to be told we're not good enough or whatever, but we keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message that you are relating, and I'm glad you are, and I'm glad to know you. And so just let's keep going, okay?
Oh yeah, I'm going to keep going. And yeah, that's one of the coolest parts about becoming an author, is that I am sharing that message with kids in empowering them when they feel those challenges and when they feel like there's no hope. And I can share my story with them and see their perspective completely change. It's very powerful. And I'm so thankful that becoming an author has allowed me to impact hundreds and thousands of kids in a very powerful way.
I agree. Well, most authors I have met are driven to become known in this world of storytelling. You, of course, have another set of goals which you've been alluding to, and that's to help these kids to understand. Do you have any more to add to that?
Well, just the simplest way I like to talk about when I go to schools and I talk to kids and I share my story with them, I like to think that what I'm doing is empowering students with disabilities and changing the perspective of those without them. And I feel like when I come to a school, I've heard really positive things about the way kids are interacting with the other students that maybe they thought were different and they didn't really give the time of day. And now, after having me come to the school, really seeing that, hey, that's still a person over there that has the same wants and desires as me, just because they may be living a little bit differently doesn't mean that that's not there.
So you have heard or seen changes in the bullying that's been taking place in schools when somebody is not quite the same.
Right.
And you get to see that change when you have gone and shown those students.
Yeah.
These are still people too. Very good.
Yeah. I'm also working on a new assembly presentation that is solely focused on inclusion, where I really want to share little bits of and pieces of stories from people in the community that are different but are still amazing people. And I really want to show the beauty of being different in this inclusion assembly.
Are you going to the Olympics next time? Just gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I have seen some of the athletes in the Special Olympics and what they're able to accomplish. It's an amazing, amazing thing. Yeah, we just need to keep working this whole thing that all human beings have worth. No, there are no exceptions. And each of us has our own sets of difficulties or handicaps or disabilities, if we want to call them that. And
yeah.
we work through them, work with them, work around them. And so keep your message going. Well, being a writer was a big change in my life and career, having been a middle school teacher for 32 years. And as I like to say, I got to torture and terrorize 11, 12, and 13 and 14-year-olds. And then they all laugh because they knew I wasn't really. But have you uncovered anything in your life that was exposed by your becoming a writer that you didn't even think about?
Well, the biggest thing is definitely the going to schools and talking to kids and doing assembly presentations. That started out as something where I thought, okay, maybe I can share my story, but really I wanted to share Frank and Mustard with the kids and get them to learn about what I was doing. And I didn't really have a clear vision on what the assembly presentation would look like, but it's evolved into this thing where it's become really powerful for the students, and it's inspiring the kids, educating them about my disability, and doing the things that I just mentioned in the previous segment. And it's just been the coolest thing that I get to do with my life. I absolutely love it, and it's such a rewarding opportunity for me to be able to pursue my dreams and to have the kids react in the way that they do. It's just very rewarding for me, and it gives me a lot of purpose and meaning.
Do you have props?
Not yet.
I can just foresee some of these additional things that happen when authors become fairly well known, and then they put out the paraphernalia that supports.
Yeah.
Now you do have CDs and picture books that go, is it coloring books?
Yeah,
That
coloring
go with
books and
your regular
pins
books.
and T-shirts
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'm glad you brought up the CD, because that was kind of one of the other surprising things that came out of it. Writing music and hip-hop was one of my previous passions, but I decided that I was going to let that one go because of all the challenges around becoming a successful hip-hop artist. But when Frank and Mustard came out, I knew right then and there that I needed to bring the two together, and it's come together in such a cool way, and the kids have really received it well, and I have big dreams for that part of my life too, where the props that you mentioned, I eventually want to have the characters be in costume, maybe when I go to the schools, or at least having concerts where kids can come and see the characters live in their in their outfits.
Sounds great. So how do you craft your stories? I know you have an illustrator.
Yeah.
Tell me about the rest.
Well, it's been ongoing development. We started out not knowing anything about what we were doing.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right? Yeah. And so there was a lot to learn. And I sought out mentors and people that could help me develop my method. I found that working through the draft heavily with Arturo, my illustrator, we would work and spend a lot of time just going through the draft and working on the story and having people edit it and having group meetings with other people trying to do the same thing to give feedback was very valuable, and it helped me really develop the story. And I've even done some crowdsourcing for names of characters on Facebook where I had a skunk, but I like the name, but I didn't feel quite like it was 100% right. And then I did a crowdsourcing to see what other people would come up with, and they eventually came up with the perfect name, which is Riff Raff, for kind of a jerk of a skunk, and it was the perfect fit.
So you're giving a bad name to the skunks.
Yeah, well, this particular skunk. I won't
Yeah.
blast them all, but yeah. But yeah, and so really developing it all along, and we're still working on it together to become as efficient as possible. The first book took us a year. The second book took us 7 months, and hoping that we cut down the time a little bit on this new book as well.
And you'll get it out to maybe 2 books a year?
I would like to get 2 or 3 eventually, and I want to start making books outside of Frank and Mustard so that I kind of expand my reputation as an author as well.
Very good. Well, I have my own publishing company, Westridge Art, so I get to do all the work of getting those books out. Tell us your secrets. What do you do? How do you get your books published? Who does it for you?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of amazing how it started. I was really wanting to get Frank and Mustard out as soon as possible because I was just lacking in purpose and meaning in my life at the time when I was working on the story. And I remember doing a lot of research on whether I should be independent or go to a publisher, and I had some difficult choices to make. But I ultimately decided to go independent because I knew I could get it quickly and I'd have all the control to supervise everything in the book. When I made that decision, my mom brought home a book from her barber or her hairdresser, and it was a really nice looking book. It had quality pages and was just the quality that I knew I could depend on if I were to go through that same person. And it ended up being the Book Publishers Network out of Bothell, Washington. And it's basically an independent publisher where I could use her and gain some of the knowledge that she has in the industry to make sure that I had a professional book, as well as have all the creative control over the book. It was the perfect combination, and it also allowed me to get the books at a little bit lower rate than I could find anywhere else. And so with all those things in place, knowing the quality of the book that she brought home for me to look at, I decided to go with them, and that's how we get started with Book Publishers Network out of Bothell.
Very good. Well, you have come to Kitsap County for several events, including, but not limited to, Green Mountain Elementary School in Central Kitsap School District. You had a booth this last year at the Kitsap Fair and Stampede, not too far from where mine was.
Nope.
And you have had your books in at the Unique Local Bazaar, and you've been there. And your books are in Barnes & Noble?
They're not in Barnes & Noble yet.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we will have to work on that. I'm kind of waiting to get into the major distributors when I can just get into a lot of them at the same time. I don't know. It's something I'm going to work towards.
Well, and then you were nice enough to invite me to go to the Puyallup Spring Fair.
Yes.
And that's in April.
That
so
is in
it'll
April.
Be next month.
That's a big
And
event.
I went on their website to take a look, and They had 170,000 people last year.
Yep.
I think that's a big event.
Yep.
Much better than what we do here in the Blackberry Festival when we get
Right.
25,000. But and I appreciate that we're going to share that. But there are other events you're going to, and
Yeah, I try to have an event every weekend from the middle of January to the end of Christmas, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is to travel all over the Northwest and to go to the different locations where the big events are happening. Next month I plan on going to California and Idaho. There's one event called Big Hat Days, which is up there in the 140,000 people show up, and just really trying to take every opportunity and fill every gap to be able to have my books grow and grow my audience as much as possible.
so people, when you're out there in the world, look for Simon Calcavecchia. He might be in your neighborhood.
Probably will.
Yeah. Now, if a book club or a school or any other organization, because you do more than just schools, wanted to get a hold of you to invite you to speak, how do they contact you?
A great place would be to visit my website, frankandmustard.com. There's an assembly tab where you can reach out to me. You could also reach me at frankandmustard@gmail.com. There's the Facebook page, which people can find me on and send me a message through that. Those are probably the best ways to find and contact me.
Well, and they just saw those above your head, so
All right,
yeah,
perfect.
they'll be there, and we'll put them in the credits too.
Awesome.
So yeah, and I would, knowing Simon, I would say, people, you need to contact this guy.
Yeah, I would love to share my story.
Because he has a great story, just a great story.
I did go to the Poulsbo Lions Club recently, and that's something I want to start doing more of, is visiting Lions clubs and Rotary clubs.
I know somebody in Rotary.
All right, let's make it happen.
Now, you have written about the experiences that you've had, and you shared them with your audience through your characters. You talked about the surfing, and then you had another one that you were working on. But tell me, is there anything else that you're planning to do? Skydiving? Mountain climbing?
Well, the cool thing about Frank and Mustard is that at some point I decided that I wanted each of my stories to be based on true stories, because I, a long time ago, started my own YouTube channel where I shared the adventures that I go on. I've gone skydiving. I've driven a monster truck.
Oh, that was the monster truck,
Yeah.
was the other one, yeah.
I've gone inner tubing down the Deschutes River, and I've even flown a plane over Seattle, and I've done a lot of cool different adventures. And what's cool about the book series is that I want those stories to be told through the books, and the stories will feed the book, and the book will feed the stories. So it's kind of a cool way where it will give me opportunity to try new things, and the illustrator and I really want to go and swim with the sharks in South Africa and have the great whites swimming around us in the cage.
My.
So we want to tell that story too.
Wow. So if I were to ask you to share your day in the life of Simon Calcavecchia, you've given us a real good show of just what it is that you do in your life. But getting to places, just the logistics of being who you are and what you have to go through to get from place to place. Explain it to us.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just getting out of bed in the morning, throwing on some clothes, and going out to work. It's a bit more complicated with my situation. I am paralyzed from the chest down, so I'm like a big baby, and I need all the help that a baby does. So my caregivers, they have to get me up in the morning, they have to help me get dressed, they have to help me bathe, they even have to help me use the restroom in some cases, just because I can't do any of that stuff on my own. And I can do certain little things, like I can brush my teeth, and I actually have a video to show a little bit of what I am doing when I'm at home on my Frank and Mustard YouTube channel. If you just look up the Adventures of Frank and Mustard on YouTube and you look through the videos, you'll see a video where you can see me getting up in the morning. Because when I do go to the schools, I share that information so they get a better idea of what my life is like day to day.
So basically, you're living Frank and Mustard's life.
I am, yes.
And so whatever they do, you get to do.
And whatever I do, they do.
That sounds, it's just amazing, fantastic. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Well, Simon, I want to thank you for sharing all you do in this literary world of ours and coming out to record this show. And I look forward to our endeavors together in the future, to going to Puyallup. And we're also discussing maybe the Seattle University of Washington
University Street Fair.
Street Fair. And then there's an event over in Moses Lake that you're looking for.
The
to
Moses
have
Lake
pieces,
Spring
people
Festival.
there. I would invite you to come back and do Blackberry Festival over Labor Day weekend in Bremerton with us. We had a great time last year with it. Are you coming back to the Kitsap Fair and Rodeo?
I'm not sure yet. It's a little far out at the moment. I'm booking into July right now.
I got the paperwork for it already,
Oh, okay.
so they're looking for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I'm sure that you and I will be at the Unique Local Bazaar again together.
You know it.
And we'll share that time. We do have this common interest in writing, and so I invite you to be a part of Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers. You are now, and you don't have to pay anything for it. It's just joining us and having fun. And as we continue to working together, there may be coming a time when we want you to host. And if you're willing, and you know other authors, bring them along. We'll interview them.
All right.
We bring them in from everywhere.
That sounds like a great opportunity.
And we would enjoy having you just around all the time and sharing with us your favorite Northwest artists and authors.
All right.
Okay. And I would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in to the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television and viewing this Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers production. I also wish to thank the BCAT staff on cameras and in the director's chair. Our broadcasts are scheduled for Saturday evenings at 6 p.m. on Wave Cable Channel 3 and Comcast Channel 12. And you can also view a live stream on the BCAT website, which is bkat.org. Keep in touch with our Facebook and our web pages to discover where you can meet local authors and artists. I hope everyone has a pleasant evening and a productive and fascinating week. And until next Saturday, I am Peter Stockwell with Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers in conjunction with the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. Good night.
We're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Now if you ever come across the little dog, his little friend, and his little paws, then you might realize something special about this dog.
He has 2 wheels but doesn't let it stop him.
Yeah, I'm on a mission to follow my dreams. Look over there, I see some ice cream. Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
Wally the walrus can't give us enough. Now it's time to introduce our friend. His name is Mr. Oinky. Let's do this again.
Hi kids, I'm Mr. Oinky.
I'm on point, see? I've been rapping since these kids were in the infancy. I don't need to oink to keep up with these peeps. My time is up, and I gotta get going. I hope y'all appreciate my time spent flowing.
Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first. Yeah, we're Frank and Mustard. We're going on adventures, putting fun first.